Donc, bonjour et bienvenue. Hello, everyone, and welcome. We will be starting. And for today, without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker of the day, our CEO, Michael Schull. Michael, à vous.
Thanks, Katerina. Good afternoon, bonjour, tout le monde, and good morning to our colleagues on the West Coast, of course. It's really a great pleasure for me to attend my first Alliance Town Hall as CEO, and I'm delighted to join all of you today in this virtual environment. Before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis lands on which we work and live. It's important that we continuously work to understand the long history of these lands and the peoples who have lived here for thousands of years. And I encourage everyone to take the time to learn about the land that you call home. I'm joining you today from Toronto, a name which comes from the Mohawk word Tikaronto, which means where there are trees standing in the water. Tikaronto is the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit, the Haudenosaunee, the Chippewa, the Anishinaabe, the Huron-Wendat, and many other First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people that today call Tikaronto home. They've stewarded these lands for millennia and continue to do so. We thank them for sharing these lands with us. And we acknowledge that First Nations, Inuit, and Métis nations and communities have been harmed by colonization and unethical research. Today, we affirm our respect for and our commitment to Indigenous data sovereignty and advancing reconciliation in research. Je tiens à reconnaître respectueusement les terres des Premières Nations, des Inuits et des Métis sur lesquelles nous travaillons et vivons. Il est important de poursuivre nos efforts pour comprendre la longue histoire de ces terres et des peuples qui y ont vécu depuis des milliers d'années. J'encourage tout le monde à prendre le temps d'en apprendre davantage sur les terres que vous appelez votre chez vous. Je me joins à vous aujourd'hui depuis Toronto, dont le nom vient du mot Mohawk Tikaronto, qui signifie là où il y a des arbres qui se dressent dans l'eau. Tikaronto est le territoire traditionnel des Mississaugas du New Credit, des Haudenosaunee, des Chippewa, des Anishinaabe, des Huron-Wendat, et de plus aujourd'hui de nombreux autres peuples des Premières Nations, des Métis et des Inuits qui considèrent Tikaronto comme leur foyer. Ils ont pris soin de ces terres depuis des millénaires et continuent de le faire. Nous les remercions de partager ces terres avec nous. Nous reconnaissons que les nations et communautés des Premières Nations, des Inuits et des Métis ont subi des préjudices causés par la colonisation et la recherche non éthique. Aujourd'hui, nous affirmons notre respect et support pour la souveraineté des données autochtones et notre engagement à faire progresser la réconciliation en recherche ensemble. I'm very happy to see such diverse representation in this meeting, from the Alliance Board of Directors and Researcher Councils to representatives of our member institutions, distributed national teams and colleagues, partners and stakeholders in academia. Thought there was someone talking to me there. In academia, government, and the private sector. I've just been with the Alliance since December 1st. I joined on December 1st. And even in that short period of time, I've had the privilege of connecting with many staff at the Alliance, along with many of the people in the organizations that make our ecosystem the vibrant and dynamic research space that it is. So for those of you that have not yet had the opportunity to meet, I want to take this time to introduce myself and, more importantly, explain a little bit about why I wanted to take on this role, what I've heard in my early conversations with the community in my first 6 weeks, some early reflections on how I see the Alliance empowering researchers, and why I'm really excited about what we can accomplish together for Canada in the years ahead. So first, a little bit about me. My background is that of a practicing physician and health services researcher. I spent most of my career working at the intersection of large population-level data sets, systems research, and efforts to evaluate policy and practice in order to improve outcomes for real people. I spent the last 12 years as CEO of ICES, which is Canada's largest health services research institute, focused on turning complex population-wide data into evidence that improves decision-making, policy, and outcomes for Canadians. Experience that shapes how I see the Alliance's role nationally. I hold appointments at the University of Toronto's Faculty of Medicine, the Sunnybrook Research Institute, and I was a founding member of Health Data Research Network Canada, or HDRN, but always operating with a focus on how we could better use data to answer real-world questions and improve our health system and health outcomes for Canadians. Je vis à Toronto, mais je suis né et j'ai grandi tout près de Montréal. Je suis donc un fervent partisan des Canadiens de Montréal et toutes mes excuses à ceux parmi vous qui ne partagent pas cette allégeance. Et j'ai eu la chance d'avoir été encouragé à apprendre le français dès mon plus jeune âge. Je suis toujours prêt à discuter en anglais ou en français avec nos collègues et partenaires. So I'm based in Toronto, but I was born and grew up just outside of Montreal. And as I just explained in French, I'm a perennial Habs fan, so apologies to those among you who don't share this allegiance, of which there are many among my neighbors here in Toronto. I was lucky as a young kid to be encouraged by my parents to learn French from a young age, and so I'm always ready to engage with colleagues and partners in either English or French. I've studied at Queen's, at McGill, at U of T, as well as undertaken some of my training in the United States. So all that is my background, but what really matters is what brought me here, the why, and what we can achieve together. So what brought me to the Alliance and this opportunity? Well, my research was always focused, as I said, on the application of analytics to large data sets to solve real-world problems and things that basically I was seeing in my everyday life. So just as an example, in my clinical world, I work as an emergency medicine specialist. I work in emergency departments. And probably everybody on this call has had some experience with the Canadian Emergency Department, either for yourself, a loved one, a child, or you've heard stories of friends or family members who've been to emergency departments. And we all know that it's a place where there can be long wait times, overcrowding, and all the stress that accompanies that. So when I was starting out as a researcher, I was interested in trying to use data to solve real problems. And so that was the problem I first tackled in my research, to try to understand what are some of the factors that drive the problem of crowded emergency departments. How does it affect patients and adversely affect outcomes? How does it adversely affect staff and the operations of the health system itself? And how is it actually a canary in the coal mine that represents problems elsewhere in the department? When I became CEO of ICS, I led a team that transformed ICS into a broadly accessible research platform that was open to researchers anywhere. And similarly, my efforts with HDRN Canada were about trying to achieve that at a national scale. I'm passionate about combining rich data with sophisticated analytic infrastructure and bringing that to serve highly skilled researchers and staff to enable impactful research that leads to meaningful change. And what a better place to build on this experience than the Digital Research Alliance of Canada, a pan-Canadian organization with a national mandate and where the same ambition applies across any research domain and all regions of the country. While healthcare remains deeply important to me, I'm really excited about the Alliance's ability to accelerate research in all disciplines and across disciplines. Think about combining climate data with health data to better understand how climate change is affecting our health at scale. Research that can drive new discoveries leading to real economic and social benefits for Canadians. This is also a pivotal moment for our ecosystem and our country as our government tackles sovereign data, compute, and AI head-on. The Alliance has been at the center of this activity. In a few moments, my colleagues will share a bit about our national engagement and vision for the AI Sovereign Compute Infrastructure Program, or AI SCIP, and the Canadian Research Data Platform, all underpinned and enabled by a distributed workforce and network of technical, data, and research support experts. So before I speak to my vision, I want to ground this in what I've heard through the conversations I've had to date with our staff, members of our distributed workforce, our government partners, and many of our ecosystem stakeholders over the last 6 weeks. And I'll just say that there are many more conversations yet to come, I know. So these reflections are early, but some clear themes have emerged. Number one, our future must be integrated and connected. The Alliance has a critical role to play in connecting the hardware, software, data, and services that make up Canada's digital research infrastructure, and most importantly, to improve cohesion and consistency in ways that reduce barriers and friction for researchers. We must play a leadership role in bridging academia, industry, and government. We can achieve far more as a country when we work together, and our presentations this morning are two great examples of this collaboration in action. 2, we need to demonstrate impact. The research we support is complex, but it often has direct impact on people and policy outcomes that are meaningful to Canadians. This is not about taking credit for those impacts or being in the spotlight, but rather it's about ensuring that the spotlight is shining on the researchers and their discoveries, to connect the dots between the investments in technology and services with the tangible downstream benefits of the resulting research outputs and insights. So before I turn over to my colleagues, I want to share a few other reflections on our direction and what guides our work within the broader ecosystem. The first point is this. We're committed to listening and to integrating input, reflecting it back, and demonstrating how it is shaping the programs, services, and opportunities that we develop together. Second, as we move from a startup mindset in our first 5 years to a scale-up mandate for the next 5, our work is increasingly guided by a clear vision of what AI sovereignty in Canada truly requires. In my mind, sovereign AI compute is not simply about supply chains and technology investments. True sovereignty rests on 3 equally important components, like 3 legs of a stool, that all must be strengthened together to create a robust and resilient research infrastructure ecosystem that is truly sovereign. First, sovereignty requires that we invest in and manage the sophisticated infrastructure, both hardware and software, to enable AI, advanced analytics, and data management, fully integrated into the existing National Digital Research Infrastructure System. Second, it requires that we build a robust Canadian research data platform that takes full advantage of the rich and diverse data that exists across this country in multiple research domains, including the private sector, ensuring strong governance frameworks, access models which reduce friction, but also ensure appropriate controls over sensitive data and Indigenous data, sophisticated data discovery tools, and the ability to efficiently federate data from many partners across the country. Third, and critically, it requires people, that we support and deepen the pool of talent across Canada, the skilled staff and researchers distributed across the country who support researchers in leveraging these systems and services across all disciplines and all regions to enable world-class discovery and innovation at scale. All 3 of these components, infrastructure, data, and talent, are critical to achieve sovereign AI. It's about more than who owns hardware and controls supply chains. It's about ensuring that the investments we make in AI development, data stewardship, and governance align with Canadian interests, values, and laws. When these elements work together, we can protect and leverage Canada's rich data for the benefit of researchers, both public and private sector, and continue to grow the national skilled workforce that empowers researchers and transforms compute power and data into outcomes that positively impact the lives of Canadians and our economy. So what does this look like in practice? Well, on compute, this will include leveraging and elevating our existing national advanced research computing systems hosted by our partners at McGill, U of T, Waterloo, Simon Fraser, and the University of Victoria. For those less familiar with our work in this space, the Alliance recently funded and collaboratively led a full node-for-node replacement of the country's national compute and storage infrastructure, implemented by our 5 national host sites and supported by our highly skilled distributed workforce. These new systems are expected to more than double performance, meaning researchers can generate insights faster, tackle more complex questions, and compete globally. On the AI compute front, we're currently deploying $83.6 million in funding from the Government of Canada's Sovereign AI Compute Strategy to accelerate researcher access to AI-dedicated compute infrastructure, tools, and resources. Felipe will speak to these investments in a few moments. We'll continue to play a leadership role in the coordination, installation, and operation of Canada's AI compute environment through the PACE initiative, alongside regional organizations and the National AI Institutes. And thanks to a year of intensive collaboration and grassroots engagement with our members, industry organizations, and the research community, we're poised and ready to collaboratively advance the Government of Canada's AI Sovereign Compute Infrastructure Program, which Stephen will speak to shortly. Increasing compute power is critical. In practice, it means that Canadian researchers can tackle some of the most complex questions in a fraction of the time, hours instead of months, or in some cases tackle questions that they simply cannot tackle with current infrastructure, thus pushing the boundaries of scientific possibility. I spoke about the importance of talking about impact, what research done on alliance-supported infrastructure means in terms of discovery and benefits. Here are a few examples. A team of clinicians and genomics researchers led by Dr. Robert Lesurf at Sick in Toronto are analyzing DNA sequencing to uncover more about the genetic causes of congenital heart disease, improving diagnostic rates and helping more families get answers sooner. Alejandro De Luca and Tim Whitaker at l'Université du Québec à Montréal are using high-performance computing to improve models of extreme heat and climate risk, supporting earlier warnings and better planning to protect vulnerable populations. And a team led by Sina Vashtani at the University of Toronto recently used the Niagara supercomputer to quantify CO2 emissions from boreal wildfire smoke, providing critical data to inform air quality forecasts, climate reporting, and policy. Investing in public compute can have direct impact on the public good, fueling productivity, enabling better informed social policy, and strengthening Canada's digital sovereignty in a rapidly shifting global landscape. But we also need long-term investments in data, people, and the services to fully leverage the compute investments and ensure Canada's ability to be truly sovereign. So alongside continued investments in compute, the Alliance will also continue to focus on data. Canada will not be able to outspend the United States or Europe when it comes to compute. Our real competitive advantage is to effectively combine cutting-edge compute with Canada's rich data and the skilled people who can leverage it. This is our competitive advantage, and it is not one that can be easily bought or replicated. With a vast landscape and very diverse population, Canada has some of the richest data on Earth. This is a resource we need to make more easily discoverable and available to researchers in ways that are equitable and responsible and ensure appropriate data protection. It's critical that we consolidate and link our fragmented public research data. We'll hear details about the Canadian Research Data Platform Initiative in a few moments, but I want to make one point clear. The Alliance is responsible for funding, integrating, and leading this work, but it must be advanced by researchers and the data management community on the ground. Librarians, researchers, data management professionals, research officers, etc., many of you who are present here today. Linking our data and integrating our systems is essential to give more Canadian researchers secure, consistent, and streamlined access to the tools, software, and support they need to ask big questions and advance groundbreaking solutions across data domains, from Arctic research and climate modeling to linguistics and large language models. Beyond data and compute, we will remain committed to the people who deliver expert services and support our researchers across Canada. I've been very impressed by our nationally distributed workforce, over 230 experts at 37 member institutions across all 10 provinces in the country, truly a national asset. These highly skilled individuals ensure researchers can move from idea to insight faster with the right tools, skills, and support in place when it matters most. They will remain vital to our ability to serve researchers and deliver for Canada. So in conclusion, I'm fortunate to have stepped into an organization with a strong foundation built through the team's dedication, input from across the ecosystem, the support of our partners, and of course, the leadership of the former CEO, George Ross, who substantially strengthened the Alliance and left us with an excellent roadmap for the path forward. As a community, we have exciting opportunities ahead. I look forward to getting to know many of you and working together to build a stronger, more integrated research infrastructure ecosystem. At the end of this event, Katerina will share an optional feedback link for those who wish to share thoughts on future town halls or anything you heard today. So I'd now like to introduce Felipe Perez Chvostov, Director of Strategic Development and Initiatives, to share an update on the community-led Canadian Research Data Platform. Over to you, Felipe.
Thank you very much, Michael. Good afternoon, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here and provide an update on the work that the Alliance has done to date on the short-term AI investments, as well as the progress and the milestones that we've achieved really in less than 10 months. Next slide, please. Just to give you a bit of a context of what specifically I will be discussing, the sovereign AI compute strategy of the federal government is really divided into two complementary aspects. The short-term investments, where there were $200 million allocated to expand existing public compute infrastructure, as well as the AI sovereign compute infrastructure, AI SCIP, that my colleague Stephen will be talking about. Today, I will be focusing on the short-term investments, where the Alliance received $83.5 million in April of 2025. Next slide, please. As Michael mentioned earlier, what we've done so far is really spectacular in collaboration with the community. We've approached the short-term AI investment not just specifically and only investing in AI infrastructure. We've also invested in the data and the services. But when it comes to infrastructure, in summer of 2025, we launched a call to rapidly deploy AI compute or AI dedicated infrastructure across the national sites. We launched a call where we invited the participation and application of the 5 institutions. And really what we were trying to do is to invest in a system that would complement the infrastructure and the capabilities that we currently have, but really focusing now on AI. I'm happy to update that the University of Toronto, through Cette, had an excellent submission, and they were awarded recently $42.5 million to really deploy next generation GPUs and expand their Trillium computer that Michael mentioned earlier has recently been refreshed and expanded. This funding includes $38 million in hardware, $2 million in small upgrades, and $2.5 million over the course of the next 2.5 years in personnel and operational costs. Next slide, please. We've also launched a new initiative and a new approach to how we're working with the infrastructure. We're testing some of these assumptions and some ways in which we can start deploying infrastructure and delivering services. And the distributed storage and compute grid was really one of those first pilots. What we were looking here is to co-locate Alliance-owned infrastructure across the country in higher education institutions to start delivering storage and compute infrastructure as a service in a S3 object store fashion, delivering reliable and accessible distributed infrastructure. We launched the call in the fall. We've gone through the review, and right now we're working with our partners to identify which universities are able to co-locate this. We have a number of institutions with whom we are already discussing. And we've started also the procurement of the infrastructure because we want to deploy this as soon as possible. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, we will be able to notify our public on where this infrastructure will go and how the model will move forward. Next slide, please. I'm also very excited to let you know that the first funding call that the Alliance launched related to research software was a huge success. What we were looking to do here was to invest $2.25 million on the research platforms and portals that are using the Alliance infrastructure. There's 72 of them. They're already functioning and serving a really large community of users through really strong service provision. What we were looking to do here is expand the capacity that they have through AI software enhancements. We knew that this was a need that was already there, and we thought that this would be a great opportunity for us to invest in those portals. We are finalizing our review, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we will also be able to have some public announcements. Next slide, please. Some of the other things before I start talking on the Canadian Research Data Platform, which is also being advanced as part of this funding. There are other things that we're contemplating and we're currently working with the community and our partners. that I'm not going to go into a lot of detail today, but some of those are the AI research software support. This is a new service, a new team that we're looking into establishing with our partners and the alliance leading this work. And it's a response to some of the things that we've heard throughout this the town halls and our conversations, and that is helping our researchers in deploying AI in this new infrastructure, developing new AI models. I think there's a huge need for this kind of user support and new service. At the same time, we're looking into expanding the training and upskilling provision, in standardizing how we're delivering some of this work and the content that is being provided. So in terms of training, we're looking at standardizing the training curriculum across the different service provisions to make sure that every researcher has access to high quality and consistent training. And we're also looking to expanding our training capacity across the country. Next slide, please. One of the big projects that we're really testing with the short-term AI investment is the Canadian Research Data Platform. Even though this is really an AI dedicated funding, we were able to make the case that you cannot really leverage compute infrastructure if you don't have high quality and interconnected data. So the CRDP, the Canadian Research Data Platform, is really looking to address this. Next slide. In very simple way, what we're looking with the Canadian Research Data Platform is have a strong foundation in terms of infrastructure on which we can build, and this is the distributed storage and compute grid that I just mentioned before. We're testing the deployment, we're testing how we can use the infrastructure to accommodate the growing national services, the different platforms that exist out there. And so we want to build modern object store technologies to ensure fast, reliable, and active access to research data across the country. This is the foundation for everything that we're building. The glue that brings everything together in terms of the different services, the infrastructures, the projects, is something new. It's a new persistent identifier called RAIDs, or Research Activity Identifier. And it's something that my colleague Lee Wilson is pushing forward. Finally, we're looking at expanding the national data services that are being provided in a way that complements what is happening at the local institutions at the regional level. We're looking at really expanding active data management support, curation, and long-term preservation of research data. And something really new for Canada and for the Alliance is looking at data through the domain-specific lens. So the national data spaces are these new approaches by which the Alliance is trying to support research communities who are the experts in dealing with that data and developing the standards, the policies by which this data is accessed and reused. Next slide, please. So in short, what we're trying to do is really build on the knowledge and the expertise that exists right now in Canada, but we want to do it in a coordinated way so that we can build a unified national architecture connecting data, compute, and services, just like Michael mentioned in his opening remarks. We want to reduce overhead and manual labor through streamlined workflows, through curation, metadata harvesting, and repositories. The tools and technology exist, so let's use them in this Canadian Research Data Platform. We want to bring together people and projects and outputs and link them in a way that funders and institutions can keep track of all of the good work that they're doing and the return on investment on that publicly funded research. We are approaching the CRDP as FAIR by default, and specifically at the ecosystem level, we want to support collaboration, reproducibility, and long-term stewardship. Finally, we want to go from silos within different communities or different research domain to something that is more integrated, and I think data spaces provide a trusted domain-specific environment with shared governance and interoperability frameworks. Next slide, please. And just talking about the national data spaces, this is a big project that we launched also in the fall. It's a funding opportunity. It's a pilot. We're testing assumptions. We're testing how we can deploy these data spaces in the Canadian context. We are in the middle of finalizing the review, so hopefully in the next coming weeks, we will also be able to announce who are these initial data spaces with whom we're going to be working to test, refine, and demonstrate how we can build data spaces in Canada. One commitment that we have here at the Alliance is that we want to make sure that we share the progress and the lessons as we go through this pilot. So please keep an eye on our website. We will be soon updating it and providing more information there. Regardless of who is the final data space that is awarded in this pilot, we are committed to working with others to make sure that everybody can participate and we can learn all together. All of the tools, frameworks, and resources that are being developed as part of this pilot will be made available, and we will be improving them with everybody's feedback. This is a collective learning. Next slide, please. And I just want to emphasize there will be many opportunities for everybody in this call and everybody else to participate and help us shape the Canadian Research Data Platform. It's a commitment we have to the community. Just in November, we held 11 topic-based focus groups aligned with each of these projects of the CRDP. Right now, this week, we've started the institutional focus group where we want to learn from our partners, librarians, research data officers, research ethics, research support teams. What are their needs from the local perspective and how the CRDP can support them? Right now, we have 18 universities already registered for these focus groups. As I mentioned, we will be reviewing and updating our website. We will be publishing a position paper where you will be able to see what's our vision for data. You've heard it from Michael, we're presenting it here, but I think we will also want you to provide some feedback on that vision. And finally, we will be hosting an event in the spring, early summer, where we want to bring the community together and make sure that this CRDP is really reflective of our collective needs and our collective vision. With that, I would like to maybe just give a bit of an overview of where we are in terms of our investments for the short. Next slide, please, Namola. In terms of the short-term AI investments breakdown, we are investing 78% of the $83.5 million on infrastructure. We're also investing in data programs and resources, and we're also expanding the workforce and training capacity. Some of these FTEs will be located here at the Alliance, but we also recognize the importance of the distributed workforce and our partners. So some FTEs will also be distributed. And just to give you an overview of what we're trying to do, we're trying to increase by 160 petabytes the storage available to our researchers. We want to also, like I mentioned at U of T, deploy a new AI-dedicated national system. We're expanding the service provision, and we're also expanding the support and upskilling that we're providing. I think it's quite fantastic to see that all of this work is being developed in less than 10 months. Next slide, please. With this, I'll pass it to my colleague, Stephen, who will walk you through the AI skip. Stephen, thank you.
Thank you so much, Felipe. And that was a lot of great work that you and the community have done. And I think a lot of this is really leading up to the opportunities that we currently have at hand. I think just to kind of start off here with the AI Compute Infrastructure Program, this is the program that was initially $705 million for a large-scale AI compute infrastructure to really propel the country into the future. And a lot of what we're talking about here is the fact that, yes, we do need a lot of compute to kind of really position Canada and research to be sustainable for the future, but we're not starting from scratch. And I think a lot of the work that Felipe and the CRDP, a lot of the work that has been invested in national services, we are looking to build upon a lot of those elements. This is not starting from complete scratch. And I wanted to really acknowledge everyone in our distributed workforce, in our community, that have really contributed to really make this something that is very truly Canadian and truly amazing for the country, because I think there is no other country that has such a diverse and large number of talent that is being drawn into something so significant. So thank you for that. Katerina, next slide, please. So what I wanted to do today is really to kind of talk a little bit about an update of what we've been kind of doing over the past few months. Since it's been a few months since we've had another one of these town halls. But fundamentally, I think we've been really humbled and honored to have your feedback throughout the past year and really provide feedback to us as the Alliance to really serve you better. And I think that service culture is something that is very foundational to how we are really positioning this AI sovereign compute infrastructure. This is going to be a generational investment for Canada. And so our fundamental philosophy is we want this to be made in lockstep with your feedback. Part of this is really about readying the Alliance to really submit a proposal that incorporates a lot of your feedback, a lot of your input, and really also meeting a lot of the ambitious federal aspirations for this country. We've talked a lot in the past about how Canada is falling behind in the G7 in terms of compute capacity, but it's not just about the hardware. It's really about how do we have the right hardware to sustain the work that you do, and also allowing for us to continue to invest in people. Now, the reality is there's still a lot of uncertainty with this program, and we are really looking at what we can really do with the funding on the table and really maximize it, because fundamentally what the Alliance stands for, and I hope that this is a shared approach and vision that all of you have, is that we need to kind of really look at maximizing what we can kind of do, and also kind of do this in a scaled up, consolidated way. And what we fundamentally believe here at the Alliance is a scaled up, consolidated approach to compute and investments in services and data is the only responsible way for this country to move forward in a sustainable way. So with that, originally we had anticipated a call for proposal last fall. It seems that the federal government is a little bit delayed, and I think these delays are actually good because it allows us to have more conversations and allow us to kind of really refine what we really need as a country. But we are anticipating an imminent call for proposals from the federal government, but we are ready to respond. So with that, what have we been doing over the past few months? A lot of you have actually been participating in a lot of the national engagements that we've had. We've had a number of roundtables across the country in 7 cities. There's already been 6 town halls, and we've attended like major conferences to really bring our vision to Canadians and yourselves. We've also worked really, really closely with a lot of our national partners and members of our distributed workforce to kind of really envision what does this look like moving forward for the country. So I really want to do a shout out to a lot of our regional partners like AceNet, Calco Quebec, Compute Ontario, and our friends out west, like the University of Victoria, Calgary, and others who really have not just said, hey, we want to be partners, but really actually committed to resources in helping us listen, but also build forward for the country as well. And as always, not only are we looking at preparing a document and a proposal, we're continuing to advocate for you for enhanced services in data and services. And hopefully the fruits of this advocacy and this work will also allow for the enhancements of the work that through Felipe and the CRDP and others will also be enhanced as well. Next slide, please. So just a reminder, like what is it exactly that we are proposing as part of the AI Sovereign Compute Infrastructure Program? Again, it's not just about the compute, but we also want to make sure that we are actually deploying a large-scale AI compute system that will be the first public AI factory of its kind here in Canada. We have high aspirations and targets that we want to achieve from the hardware, but a lot of our targets for the hardware is really about maximizing the amount of money we can actually deploy for the development and the refinement of the Canada Research Data Platform, but also skills and talent across the country. We do have a commitment to actually supporting more researcher services. We do want to enhance those, and we want to make sure that as we take a look at how the distribution of funding will ultimately end up, a good prioritization and allocation is made to these efforts as well. We also understand that there is still a reaffirmed commitment for more Canadian technology and also the development of a technology testbed. As we discussed before, it's not just about compute hardware, which will obviously be an important factor, but we're also looking to maximize the many years of government investments to grow out our clean technology sector, energy efficiency, and other things that actually makes a data center sustainable. We want to be able to lead a lot of these technologies into export markets. And finally, economic development is also very important to the Government of Canada. And as part of our proposal, we do have an economic development plan that will allow us to actually catalyze the amount of funding that will be on the table to ensure that we're not just looking at this from a development of innovation, but also the catalyzing of Canadian jobs and supporting the local economy, especially in the geopolitical context that we find ourselves in today. Next slide, please. So a lot of this, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, the fact that, this is not a proposal that the Alliance is developing in a silo. This is your proposal. This is your feedback that is guiding how we will actually develop the technical specifications for researcher services, how we are prioritizing the financials, and also how we are fundamentally looking at a data center design. You have provided a lot of feedback to us through the user needs assessment, which about 800 of you actually participated in, and we thank you for that. You've also participated in a lot of virtual workshops and a lot of these town halls, and you've provided us with a lot of good feedback so that we can actually take back and incorporate as part of our plans. We've also engaged with industry, we've engaged with government, and we've taken a lot of this feedback and moved it forward. So I think when we are ready to actually present to you what our ultimate proposal strategy is and ultimately submit to Government of Canada, we hope that you can all find a little bit of yourselves and a little bit of your thinking as part of this overall approach as well. Katerina, next slide. But some of the things that we've heard specifically, and I really wanted to kind of show you what we have heard directly from yourselves. Number one is the fact that we understand fundamentally that technology is changing very, very fast. And there is a opportunity for us to support Canadian researchers to leverage these advances, but it also requires us to take a look at how we actually provide training, support to yourselves, and your grad students, and other researchers as well. We've heard loud and clear that a lot of the research work, especially in AI, between academia and industry is increasingly collaborative. And we need to also understand how do we actually support researchers to do the pure and applied research that you do, but also allow for an industry access model that accommodates the fact that the reality is academia is working very closely with industry. How do we do that? So a new industry access model is being proposed that you provided feedback on, and we're very, very thankful for your support and feedback into how this might work. We've also heard loud and clear that equitable access is important. No one institution, region, or organization should kind of be able to dictate how this resources are being deployed. And so equity in terms of ensuring that all researchers, regardless of colors, stripes, and institution, will have equal access of these resources as well. And that's something that fundamentally we at the Alliance believe in. Now, we know that, a lot of the infrastructure and how you access these resources can be improved. We've heard that loud and clear. And one of the things that as we kind of take a look at, we move forward is we also are aspiring to increase the user experience for how you will access these resources so that the training, the capabilities, and the tools become less complex and allow you to spend more time on doing research versus figuring out how to use the compute. We've also heard that in the age of changing geopolitical dynamics, the fact that we have a lot of health researchers, genomics researchers, and a lot of other researchers that are dealing with sensitive and dual use technologies and endeavors need environments and infrastructure capable of supporting these nation building projects. At the Alliance, we are striving to design a system and infrastructure that accommodates these needs as we move forward. This will be a journey, and I think there will be more conversations that will be had about what this infrastructure will look like, but we are ready and willing to take on this challenge. And finally, I can't stress enough that Canada is a leader on the global stage in terms of research, digital infrastructure, and also the fact that there is over 200 people across the country who have managed, operated, and deployed high-performance computing systems for well over 20 years. These are the people that we are going to be leaning on to build forward this AI factory of the future. And I think this is something that as a community, there's much to be excited about. Next slide, please. So what are the next steps? From our perspective, the team that we are building continues to grow, but this is really a proposal for Canada. It's not an alliance proposal, it's a proposal for Canada. And what we want to be able to do is make sure that it is competitive, because the reality is the alliance is not the only organization that is leading in a proposal. The outcomes of this is not guaranteed, but we do want to make sure that we are putting the best foot forward. But we also want to ensure that you are updated as we move forward. And so I encourage all of you to visit us at ai.alliancecan.ca, where we will be providing regular updates on our progress, opportunities for you to continue to provide feedback. But on top of that, I know a lot of you have already reached out to us, and we continue to welcome feedback through our dedicated engagement channel, which is engagement@alliancecan.ca. And I think every little bit of feedback, advice, or questions do help us make a better proposal. So we do encourage you to use these platforms to get in touch with us. Our team here, Oyunda Mola and Katerina and others, it almost sounds like a telecommercial here, but we do have people on the line waiting for your questions, and we are looking to respond to you in a timely fashion as well. So thank you so much for that. And with that, I think Katerina, we're opening it up for some questions. Is that right?
Yes, this is right. So thank you, Stephen and Felipe, and to Michael for opening the session, and we will now proceed with the Q&A. Donc nous allons procéder aux questions et réponses. Nous avons reçu quelques questions et réponses, et je vais les publier et nous allons les lire et vous donner les réponses que vous attendez avec impatience. So the first question is from Luc Letarte. Alongside AI software support, have you also considered, or would you consider, offering AI security and privacy support? This would be for Felipe, please.
I mean, the short answer is we definitely need to consider this. If there's any additional kind of like context to that question, that would help me maybe with the answer. I don't know if the person is.
Yes, I don't know if Luc is with us. We can come back to it otherwise.
I'm here.
Okay,
Luc.
Perfect.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just wanted to ask, is it, I understand it's just for the sake of the presentation, it might have been very high level, sort of providing support, but I'm thinking, especially right now, considering how fast AI is evolving, and the consideration for our researchers to think about how to protect AI when using it, but also when developing it and when designing it. So I was thinking it might be something that would be interesting to explore, making sure we have the skills, say, within the support team to help with cybersecurity as well.
So I believe you're talking about the AI support team, consulting team that I mentioned, right? So
That's
definitely, right. I think one of the exercises that we're conducting right now is understanding what are the needs in terms of the researchers and how we can complement that through user support. So security and proper software development and AI development would definitely be a consideration as we look at the skill set for that specific team. If you have any comments and suggestions, please do send them my way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing with another question for Felipe. So Felipe, you have mentioned that universities are being targeted for infrastructure considerations. Will colleges also be considered if they can demonstrate high impact industry adoption?
Yeah, so I think the reality is that we're looking at higher education institutions, research hospitals, not-for-profits. We are eager to work with all of our partners across the sector. So colleges definitely are a key partner we're going to be working with. They're not excluded from any of the funding that we've had.
Thank you. And one last question so far for you is regarding the institutional focus groups for CRDP. Were those invitations where did those invitations go, and how to find out more locally, for example, from the VP Research Office, university librarians, or RDM committees?
Thank you. So what we did to have a little bit of a process, we invited all of our member organizations by emailing their contact person, their delegate. And that person was then the one who invited all of their representatives. If you're not a member and you're still interested in participating, or you're a member but didn't hear about it, please do send me an email, and we will try to accommodate that request as well.
Thank you, Felipe. I'm now turning to Stephen with the first question. In order to enhance security, is there a plan to move towards developing Canadian software for running systems?
That's a good question, and I think probably better directed to David. David has a little bit more use in the software system. So David, maybe you can help with that one.
Sure, it's a really good question. And, a lot of the middleware that already runs on our systems is developed by the research community or by the distributed workforce who's providing support for these systems. There's more work that we could do, but I think we also have to look very carefully about what kind of lift it would take. So not a direct answer to the question, but it's something that does need careful consideration where it makes sense.
Thank you, David. Another question for you, Stephen. Regarding sovereign infrastructure, is the use only by higher education researchers, or will also there be the possibility for use for commercial and SME applications? With a comment following, the real value should come from local demand by businesses. Otherwise, you will always have to rely on government funding, while Microsoft, Google, Amazon reap the benefits of running our real economy.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. And I think this is a very important question. I think fundamentally, I think there's two problems that this program is trying to solve. One is the critical shortfall of infrastructure investment that has been generational. And I think there's also a realization that as we kind of move into the space of AI and AI infrastructure, commercialization and innovation moves very, very fast. So when we kind of take a look at how we see industry access and whatnot, that is fundamental to how we view this infrastructure being released. Our vision is the fact that about 60% of the resources will be dedicated for research use. About 20% will be dedicated for academic industry collaboration, and another 20% will be dedicated for technology readiness level 1 to 6. And this is really to kind of provide an alternative and an opportunity for companies to kind of start using sovereign Canadian technology and compute resources. But as part of our proposal, we do have a trajectory to allow for Canadian companies to graduate into more sovereign Canadian spaces, to allow for us to also make responsible use of government funding as well. But this is contemplated as part of our industry access model. So thank you for that question.
All right, another one for you, Stephen. How are Canadian research institutions planning to meet new cybersecurity expectations, given that many universities and their research units do not have the budget, staff, or time required to rapidly reach the US NIST 800-171 compliance? And there's specifications, so are there national or shared strategies to support compliance? And is the Alliance considering initiatives to help institutions avoid losing NIH-related funding due to non-compliance?
Yeah, and maybe I'll flip that over to David, and maybe if Lori's on the line as well, because I think these relate to cybersecurity and how we deal with that. So I don't know if David or Lori, you want to take a crack at that?
I can't see whether Lori's here, so I'll have a first go with a placeholder. So cybersecurity is an incredibly important component of the services that we provide to the research community. So we need to be very mindful of that. In terms of specific programs, I think I will defer to Lori on that. Her team has the expertise on this. So Lori, over to you for now.
Thanks, David. And I'm going to do a deferral too. I don't know if Benjamin's on the line. We do have an overall cybersecurity action plan that we're working with our service partners as well as our infrastructure service partners, as well as our service and product partners in research data management and in other areas. And of course, we work with all of the teams that are working on developing the new plans, projects, and services for P85. And we do bring obviously a security perspective to those discussions. We develop the plans and the work items that need to be pushed forward to ensure that we can protect and safeguard our Canadian infrastructure and our Canadian data and the work that we do within of course, our purview. The other pieces around compliance, we are looking at how we do that going forward in terms of whether we dictate standards or whether we go in and do audits. And there are other areas that we are focusing on in terms of assessing and auditing both the infrastructure and our processes and our services. Benjamin, I don't know if you're on here as well, if you want to add any to that.
Yeah, like similar to what Philippe said earlier, if you see this becoming a greater need in your area, I would say reach out to Philippe and the engagement team to sort of bring forward this issue as well. There's a number of additional standards as well. There's a Canadianized version of NIST SB 800-171, which is ITSB 10-171, which is what a lot of Canadian institutions are potentially looking to adopt as well. As part of what Lori mentioned, in some of our programs, we're doing some gap assessment work where we currently are against these assessments to get a better sense of what's required to move into this area. But I would encourage everybody here, if you have a requirement here, reach out to the engagement team and we can look into this further as well. Hopefully that addresses sort of the comment, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Laurie and Benjamin. We do have one last question due to the sake of time, and this one will be for Stephen as well. What are your plans for hosting personal health information? National infrastructure would be tremendously helpful for health AI research.
Well, I think this one is maybe for our CEO, and because I think we have an ER doctor in the room, and so maybe you might want to kind of provide some of your vision there as well, Michael.
Well, I think the simple answer is say PHI is definitely in scope, we're working already with health data partners that are used to managing PHI and do that as part of their daily life. And in terms of data spaces and the national data platform, it is very much in scope. We recognize there are complexities in health data that are not shared with some other types of data that we've typically worked with, but that is absolutely in scope, and that is within our ambition and our intention.
Thank you, Michael. All right, this is a really last one for you, Stephen, I promise. Will there be another round of AI compute access funding?
Actually, that is a good question, not for me, but I think that is the deferral to ICED. The AI Compute Access Fund is run by ICED, so I think that's a decision of the federal budget. But I think for us, what we are really after is really ensuring that we can actually provide sustainable opportunities, both through the sovereign compute infrastructure, but also providing new technologies that researchers can kind of access there as well. Katarina, if you might, I'm just kind of going through some of these questions, and I know that we are close to time, but I think some of these questions really talk a lot about our future vision, about the integration of data, services, and the compute. And I think there's some questions about why we see the data platform aligned with sovereign AI compute. And maybe I can flip that question to Michael to talk about your vision of the integration of all of these pieces as a final closing for us.
Well, yeah, I think I referred to this in my opening comments that sovereign AI is not just about infrastructure and servers and the supply chains. It's very much about to achieve sovereignty. I believe, and we believe, you need to invest in infrastructure and ensure that you have world-class and sophisticated infrastructure, and that's absolutely a major part of the investment that ICET is planning to make. But in addition to that, you need to bring to bear the rich data that Canada has and make it easier to access that data and bring it together for cutting-edge research. And you need to, the third piece to that is to have the skilled people across the country who can leverage the data and infrastructure resources that are going to be, these new investments are going to enable. So it is those three things that together enable Canada as a country to truly exploit and leverage advances in AI, the rich data that we have, and ensure that Canada and Canadians are benefiting from that. So I think those are all three are necessary conditions.
All right. Thank you, Michael. So we have reached 3:01. So I would like to thank everyone for sharing with us today and to the presenters as well. Really taking the opportunity for attending the town hall, looking at the slides, sharing with us, and just rephrasing what we said into the chat, that the slides for the meeting will be published on our website together with the video. The slides will be published in French and in English. And before you go, we will also share with you a quick satisfaction survey. It will appear on your screen momentarily, and we would really appreciate your feedback. It will take no more than 1 minute for you to engage with it. So thank you again. Thank you to the presenters and for the conversation as well. And if you have any further questions, I have pasted into the chat our engagement mailbox, and we'll be happy to come back to you in French or in English with any answers that you may be looking for. Thank you, everyone.